Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Marcia, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Thank you so much for coming. Let's just jump straight into it. What got you into B2B coaching?
Coaching was kind of the next step. I ended up accidentally falling into the career of training. At first it was a hospital, and then I moved into technology. And I went back and got a second master's to figure out what I was doing and how to design instruction, and got fascinated with how did people learn and grow. And so I kept doing research, trying to make my training better. But training, is an event and often doesn't lead to sustainable change. And it was the last day of my last job. I was going to go start my own leadership training company. And somebody sent me this thing called coaching. It was an article. And I thought, this is fascinating. I went and watched a demo. And I said, there's something else going on here. And so I joined a coaching school. I learned how to do it, but I kept, focusing on the research. Neuroscience was just coming out. This was 1995, 96, and researching how coaching impacts the brain differently than telling people what to do or telling them what they should do, which training does as well as other modalities. And I got fascinated by it and said, this is a different learning technology. I see it as a learning technology that really impacts the brain in a way that creates sustainable change. So it was what I had been seeking for 30 years. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it makes such a difference in helping people to see new possibilities, to become even more than they think they can, and really develop and grow.
I like it a lot. So, in your own words, what problem would you say you solve right now with your coaching practice?
People get stuck. They get stuck in and their development. They often don't know what to do next. They go back to old behavior. It worked before, so it should work again. And it's the same thing goes with teams, not being, holding on to old beliefs and old patterns that don't serve them anymore. So this really is helping people to get beyond the stories that they're holding in their head and the things that's keeping them stuck in a way they can't do for themselves, because they can't do that. They can't see beyond it. They need someone outside of them to help them see their thinking out here. And so when I help them see their thinking out here, they can see how their beliefs, their fears, the things that are holding them back. And once they articulate it, they can move beyond it. So it's moving beyond stuck is what I do.
So, that's super clear. Who is it that you help with this? Like, who is it that you get unstuck? Who's your target client?
When I do my own coaching, it's usually leaders. Often it's through a leadership program. So they're trying to develop to the next level. But I actually do more training coaches around the world in 5 different coaching schools. So I'm impacting many, many people through the coaches that I teach that are, going out and helping people's lives, whether it's leadership or career focus, their own entrepreneurs, so I feel like my impact is out there in many different ways. I also do work with organizations, and I have even worked with a government on integrating coaching cultures into the organization. I actually last year was awarded, along with a company that I had worked with, a Vietnamese company, that integrated coaching culture. And the best part of the story is that they're a retail company. And, I worked with them, consulted with them to create the plan, and they started to integrate it. And then they hit the pandemic and I lost track of them, because I'm like, okay, they're retail and work in malls. And they did have an e-commerce, but I just thought, they were on hold. It was a few years later, toward the end of the pandemic, they called me and said, okay, we're ready to apply for the Impact Award. And they not only survived the pandemic, they thrived during the pandemic. And they totally base it on shifting the entire culture, the conversations people had that were far more inspiring and engaging. And they even had coaching festivals to bring the families in to understand coaching. And it made such a difference that their parent company is in Japan, and their parent company is continuing to give them the budget to keep the program going. So I work from individuals all the way through organizations.
How do you? So a lot of success in coaching comes from working with people who are coachable, right? You work with a Vietnamese company where I suspect the culture is completely different. Like I've actually been in Vietnam in July for 3 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Absolutely loved it, but it's radically different than how the culture and how people are in the US. So how do you make someone coachable so that they can get the best return on your coaching, Marcia?
Yeah. Well, actually, I understand what you're saying about culture's different, but the resistance of being coached, unless you're seeking it out, it happens here in the US as well. And nobody wants to be changed. They have to seek it. And truly, as in any organizational change, there really has to be an inspirational vision. What is it that we're trying to achieve? And unfortunately, for organizations, they don't usually make big change until there's a crisis. And, this company, my last job, I was hired the day of a layoff, and they said, well, we got to turn everything around or we're going to they're going to close our doors. And so they were like, here's a budget, do whatever you want. We got nothing to lose. But we became we were the top IPO revenue producer 3 years later in the US. So like even in Vietnam, it was clear that, engagement was going down, the turnover was way, way high, and people were afraid to take risks. And there's a lot of customer service where you have to be able to make decisions quickly. That wasn't happening. So they were losing market share and brand awareness. And so the problems they were facing, it's like, okay, well, we have to do something. And I don't like that it has to be in the face of chaos, but that's the way it seems organizationally. If it's going well, if it's not broken, don't fix it, and until it is broken, because they're not making the changes. I mean, how many companies have been in the top leadership books that a few years later, they no longer exist, because they get so stuck in, but we know how to be successful, and they don't change.
Yeah.
And so that was, and being able to work with giving them measurements and case studies, like here's what the other places have done. Why not give it a try? There's a lot of media that goes along with, like creating videos, like here's what can happen and how people feel when they get coached, and the results that you can get, and what is your purpose as leadership anyway. And, really working with what are the great results that you can achieve if we embrace this. So again, it's based on, this is what's happening. Do you not have goals to achieve this? We have a different way of doing it. And so that happens. I think sometimes when you get, top leaders saying, this is important. I've been coached. It's really great. let's go for it, that you can engage that. If the top leaders don't support it, then as in any change, it's difficult to do. So it was almost like, well, we got nothing to lose. So,
So I like that. How do
mhm,
you, in your coaching practice, right? So you help leaders basically of mid to large enterprise get unstuck.
mhm,
How do you market your coaching practice? How do you brand yourself? How do you get
mhm,
those people to be problem aware and then to
mhm,
be solution aware of Marcia who can
mhm,
help them?
mhm.
How do you market?
Um, I don't do traditional marketing. I've always marketed by visibility. So the same year that I joined coaching, I decided to really develop my public speaking. Even worked with improv acting workshops and coaches. And so I speak at conferences, I write books. My book, Coach the Person, Not the Problem, was fortunately was huge success. So, and I do things like this.
There you go.
Podcasts and write. I write for Psychology Today, and I have my blog posts. So I put out my thinking. This is what I think about this, and I present it in many different ways. And for coaching, people really have to trust you as a person. I like the way you think. I like how you present. You're authentic. I like who you are, and that's truly how I've developed my business.
Yeah.
So yeah, not in the traditional sense of marketing, except for when I launch my books, then I have to do the social media and all the other stuff. you know.
See.
So yeah.
Okay. And so what would you say has worked the most in your non-traditional approach to do it? Like what I'm trying to get out of you, obviously, Marsha, as you might notice, it is like we have B2B coaches listening to us right now, and obviously when the
Mhm,
podcast goes live on the podcast platforms, who are
mhm,
like, okay, they have a great offer, right? They get referrals because they do a good job, but they're
mhm,
trying to get to that next level where it's like, okay, we are growing steadily. Now I'd like to scale. And to scale, I need to have an acquisition channel, not only rely on referrals. So
mhm,
for
mhm.
you, what has worked specifically? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah. Honestly, I believe that uh, what I said to you about my work, about being like totally um, authentic and honest and caring on the stage, that honestly, that just so resonates, that I'm not fake and I'm not trying to sell them. I'm just trying to share something that I have found is so powerful, and putting that out there, but constantly. And I give away, when people want, can we use this assessment that's on your website? Absolutely, give it away. I learned that from Thomas Leonard in my coaching school. It's like, give people stuff, and if they use it, they'll remember you. And if they believe in you, then they want to work with you. And I think that's it. So you got to also develop content that you can give away, as well as, and formulas and things and assessments and whatever stuff that I can give, as well as putting out there. And I love to write, and that's been really fortunate, as well as speak and do little YouTube videos and whatever it is that uh, they see me, and top of mind. But I'm also constantly researching. I love to research, so I'm bringing out fresh stuff, and I think that's critical, because if you're only like sharing the same thing that everyone else is saying, then why you? So I even though it's tough to keep giving new stuff all the time, I'm always reading
Yes.
and looking for what can I put out there that will help people that they don't know already, and other people aren't saying it, or at least saying it the way I am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. There are a few things that I want to double down on because this is just so good, Marcia. So first of all, I would put at the top the research. This is so good that you're mentioning it, and that's something
Mhm.
that we like encourage B2B coaches and consultants to do. It's like, it's not just about content and validity metrics.
Mhm.
It's about putting out content out there that is targeted to the person, the ICP that you help, based
Mhm.
on their pain points, based on their desired outcomes
Mhm.
right now. What I mean with that is there is a gazillion resources out there right now. Google Trends, Google Keywords Planner, Answer the Public, Reddit communities, Chorus forums, school communities, where you
Mhm.
have a concentration of your ICP asking the questions that they are
Mhm.
struggling with right now. And if
Mhm.
you position your content afterwards based on those questions, you're
Mhm.
primed to get exposure to the right people
Mhm.
whilst being perceived as an authority and as an SME, which is back to your last point, like
Mhm.
content, publishing content that is relevant to your audience and putting it in front of them,
Mhm.
positioning yourself differently than your competition
Mhm.
is what's gonna make the difference in 2025,
Mhm.
especially in an age of AI. So
Yeah.
I like this a lot. And
Mhm. Mhm.
so that's how you make people aware of what you do, right, Marcia? How
Mhm.
do you go from, okay, people are now aware of me, they're aware of their problem, they're aware of the solution I can offer. How do you get them to cross the finish line? Can you break
Mhm.
down for us how you go from marketing, lead gen to SOW, letter of engagement, we rock and roll?
Um, I think I'll always, like in my proposals, I always start with the whole statement of the problem, and here's the solution, but I do it as like an article form, like if I was writing an article that brings in the relevant um, research, that this is what we're facing right now, this is the great challenge, this is the dilemma, this is what seems to be working, but as if I had written it, or maybe I had wrote it um, for a magazine. So I give them like an article, and then give them what they asked for. But I very much, I always want. I've learned that if you don't sit down with the stakeholders and really listen to what they want, so you can use their words in the proposal, that you're going to present something that's not relevant to them. And you could even run into the problem, like for me, um, uh, if I don't fully understand it, then I go and I teach the course that wasn't what they expected or what people really wanted in the room. So I want to talk to a lot of people, then it fails. So to avoid that, I do talk to the different layers of people. Like I'm presenting a workshop in China in a couple of weeks now. And, I work with them. What is it they want? But I even met with the CEO this morning. And, the thing is that I know people don't want to limit their work, but I've done my best when I'm working with organizations um, that relate to the experience I have. So I worked semiconductor for years. So did he, and he kept saying, I know you understand because you've been there. And so, it's like my experience sold me in this, but I also knew I didn't know what it was they were facing. Have I presented to other organizations that I don't have experience? Yes, but my greatest success is the ones that I do. So healthcare and technology, that's big. I can stay in those lanes, and be successful, and not try to go somewhere else. So they got to know uh, that you can speak their language and their experience. Even if their experience is similar to everyone else, it doesn't matter. They have to know that. So I listen, I talk to a lot of people up front before I don't write a proposal um, just off the blue when they say, oh, send us a proposal. It's like, no, I got to talk to people and know I have a real chance at this, because otherwise I'm not spending my time doing it. It's too much time, you know, um, that all they're going to do is read proposals from people they don't know. So if they're willing to let me talk to people and really get what it is they want and they need, and then I can write it up based on that, then I tend to get the work. But again, my resume speaks for me. The experience I had, my degrees, all of that comes together. You were talking about Asia. Credentials, credentials, credentials in Asia. Yeah, you got to have those. So, yeah.
So That's an interesting point because we mainly work with experienced consultants and experienced B2B coaches. So
Mm-hmm.
they usually have some credentials, right? They are
Mm-hmm.
getting some referrals. The thing that a lot of experienced B2B coaches and consultants struggle with though is getting those credentials out there. What do I mean? It's like not that it's easy, but like it's easy to deliver great work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there is more to it. It's not easy per se, but it's easy to deliver great work. It's
Mm-hmm.
harder to advertise that work, right? Your clients typically are not super willing to advertise the fact that they've worked with a coach or consultants because it means
Mm-hmm.
they were lagging behind in their processes initially. So they were like, hey, great, I will recommend you privately to my network, to people who ask me the questions. It's a
Mm-hmm.
bit harder for them to like leave a video testimonial, right? Go on a podcast and say like, hey, this is where we started, this is where we are right now, this is all thanks to John from coaching, amazing coaching, LLC. Where I'm going with this, Marcia, is how do you get your clients to help you attract more clients publicly? Do you collect testimonials? Do you collect case studies? Like, how do you make sure that you can push forward those credentials that allow you to get business as far as
Mm-hmm.
Asia, the other side of the world?
Well, in Asia, again, because I've been doing a lot of work there for years and years and years, and my books are translated in most languages. That kind of stands out for me. I'm launching breakthrough coaching in Chinese the first week of December. Um, they love to sell me, which is great, because I have the credentials, the background, and they're if it's a multinational or global company, they probably speak English. So that's what they need me for. But I think it's important. I have in added to my bio in many cases, case studies where I'm not using the company name. I might say a global semiconductor company, or a large healthcare chain. um, and if it's for individual coaching, I'll just I worked with a senior vice president of supply chain, and give the case of what was the presenting situations that they needed coaching for, and what was the outcome, what was the process, and what was the outcome. So I think collecting cases without naming, because I think people understand you can't be giving out I can say this with the impact award with Aeon Vietnam, because they won the award and it's all over the place. So but other than that, I rarely would be able to use the name. But still, you collect the case studies and you present them, put it on the bio, put them in the proposals, so they know you've worked with people and on issues that are similar to what they're facing.
Does make a lot of sense. The advice I often give to consultants, which is a bit getting close to what you're doing, Marcia, but maybe to develop on this because I think this is such an important point for B2B coaches and consultants, is A, so deliver great work, obviously. B, document that work as you go. Meaning you start an engagement with a client, you capture like clear snapshot of where the client is right now, and you make it part of the deliverables, right? Like across the milestones, we will have a snapshot here, we will have a call to discuss like how we are, to have like that documented properly. And you do this like for every milestones, like every couple of weeks, every month, and you make sure to get the feedback from the clients whilst you go in a call. And at the end of the engagement, once like it's all good, pink and rainbows, and you delivered amazing results, you can go back to those recordings, back to those conversations, and being like, hey, look, so this is what I captured. Does that represent what you think? And like, remember, we went from this to that. You agree with that? Cool. Can I leverage this? Can I interview on the podcast to do a case study? And
Yeah.
that will allow you to get that out there publicly. And
Mhm.
it's so powerful for the funnel, because
Mhm.
people find out about you thanks to this, but you can also use it as part of your funnel to
Mhm.
all the clients that you're in discussions with. Works extremely well. Okay, so I think we have a good idea of how you
Mhm.
market, how you get people through the finish line. Tell me about retention. So when I was at PwC, PricewaterhouseCooper, the partner that taught me everything back then
Hmm.
was like, Guillaume, there are two types of consultants. There are the hunters and there are the farmers. And he was like, I'm a hunter. I love the smell of fresh blood in the morning. I love to go after new business. It was like the people who make the most money, the best partner, the ones who grow the fastest, are the farmers, the one that are
Hmm.
able to like take that initial engagement,
Hmm.
over deliver, and then transform it into a multi-layered, multi-year project, like involving all the teams from the consulting practice and the coaching practice. Those are the ones that grow the fastest. Back to you, Marshall. So, how do you take that initial engagement with the client, make
Hmm.
sure to over deliver, and then transform it into a multi-year, multi-layered engagement, if at all, right? How do you optimize for retention?
Um, you know, the simple way of doing it is, like if I'm asked to come in to work in a leadership program and teach leaders coaching skills, then there's always some leaders then that are looking at, they may want some individual coaching. Making sure that I'm working with the head of HR. What other problems do you have that I can help you solve? Having a relationship with that person. So if I can get in front of them to do some work there, then it's possible to leverage other work. And never assume that they know what else you do, because they'll whatever they hired you for, they think that's what you do. So if I'm teaching leadership skills, they may not know that I coach or that I might speak at their annual event. So making sure that whatever other services you provide, that they're aware of that. But most of the things, if it was involved in a cultural change, then it is multi-year that we're dealing with, a number of leaders, a number of layers of leaders, then the new leaders coming in, then we have to create something to integrate the new leaders into the mindset. And so it becomes that if it's a part of a program. So hopefully you're not doing just a one-off. And it's not like I don't do one-offs. Of course I do. But as I mentioned earlier, I do coach for 5 different coaching schools, and uh, the expertise that I provide, they don't have. So I have a commitment to them. Now, they may not pay me as much for like the classes I teach for the coaching schools, but the business that they then go out and say, okay, we've got someone that can meet your demands. So they market me, they sell me. To do that is as well worth working with them. And plus, then I create long-term relationships with these people that I fully enjoy being with. Yeah. So some things have been, multiple years. There's an insurance company I work with that they have every year they run certain leaders through a leadership program, and so they just every year I work with I coach 6 different leaders in the program. There's 2 or 3 coaches. So getting involved in a longer term, a larger program than just a one-off event. And you might even ask that if they ask you to come in to teach a class on something. So what is the intention of this class? Is this a part of a bigger initiative? If you can find that out, and if the class is again a one-off, for what value are they looking for? Because a one-off class isn't really going to change anything. But if they're really saying, well, we wanted to do this to solve this problem. So to remember that we're trying to solve the problem, not just give them a service. So maybe I could say, okay, I can do this class for you, but if you're really looking to make this change, here's some other things you might consider doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you? I love this, and we're gonna go down the rabbit hole because I think that's so valuable for B2B coaches and consultants who might be dealing with the same level of like companies as you, right? Like big insurance companies, multiple decision makers, multiple leaders to train and coach.
Mm-hmm.
How do you? So, the thing that you mentioned around finding out if it's part of a bigger initiative or if it's just a one-off is super key because it's like, oh, okay, it's part of a bigger initiative of like leadership training, and I
Mm-hmm.
want. that and I want to bring value here. But then the decision maker is not necessarily the same person as the one that you're actually coaching. They are not necessarily the executive that you might be coaching right now. The decision maker might be the head of learning and development or HR or whomever, head of people. So how do you find out if there is a bigger initiative at play? How do you find the right stakeholders within the company? And how do you get in front of them to be like, hello there, I'm Marcia, I'm helping
Mhm.
you guys right now, and I'd love to be part of the
Mhm.
bigger thing. So like, how do you navigate the politics within that company to get that additional recurring or reoccurring business?
Mhm. I think you ask.
Right?
Simply like,
Next
yeah,
question.
you know? So, again, so let's say, I mean, usually it is at least one step below a bigger decision maker. I don't usually come in at multiple levels. Uh, it could be somebody is occasionally I have a leader that I really need some emotional intelligence, and so, but they then have to go get permission for the coaching to get it funded. But that's a one-off, and I'm happy to do that. And occasionally that has led to the leader saying, could you do some programs for my team? But it doesn't usually go much bigger. It's usually, so when I say training, it's often, um, if they bring me in for a leadership program, the program's already there. But if they bring me in for training, that's when I always ask, so what is it that the problem you're trying to solve with this training? And is this a systemic problem? And so if we could fix this problem, but if the system doesn't support what you're trying to do, then it's not going to make that big of an impact. Could we look at, what might be possible within your system that would support the change you want to make? And if that's the case, then it just comes up in the conversation. So who needs to be in this conversation to have this greater effect? And so then helping them understand. I think a lot of times, they bring me in to train to fix a problem that I'm not going to really be able to fix by just that one class, like conflict resolution, because they're not getting along. But if they're not getting along, again, was it always like that? And is that the way everyone treats them? Then again, once they start moving around the organization, they're going to face the same problems. So getting them to talk about what is the system going to support the change you want or not? Yeah, and then if that's the case, do you think it would be possible to talk to some other people about creating a systemic change that would truly make the difference for this organization instead of just trying to do something about this immediate problem you're facing?
Just ask.
Just
I like
ask.
it. I think this is good. But so I'm going to double down on this one. Because even from my experience at PwC, and we had some leadership coach coming during like the year-end events, right? Coming in, doing an assessment of the personality, explaining how we could work better together, and so on. So like I've been through those programs, and being able to identify in the room the person who's going to put you in touch with the right person by simply asking, right? And it's relationship building, is doing exactly that, and it's following up. It's like
Yeah.
not being afraid of following up without being spammy, obviously, but like over the course of the next few weeks, next few months, send that weekly email like, hey, here are additional tips. Love that, by the way. And then you continue with your call to action. But actually
Yeah.
being active and asking
Yeah.
without being too pushy is
Right.
definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
Marsha, you're a veteran. Like clearly you know your stuff. I'm a bit curious, like where do you find yourself the most stuck right now?
Stuck me.
That says it all. Next question.
No, well, no, and I say that because it's funny because I am so grateful for this journey that that unfolded for me. I'm 70 now. I'm facing like, okay, what can I peel away? So, Which is a different thing when in terms of building, people are like, you're always so busy. When are you going to slow down? Well, I doubt it, but honestly, there's no overnight success. You have to keep at this. You have to trust the process and know that sometimes it's going to feel like, why am I doing this? I just need to go work for somebody, whatever, but stay with it. And you build it, there's no substitute for that. And at this point, I've done a lot of that building, and it pays off. Yeah.
No, I like the principle that things take time, and I'm witnessing this in my own journey, obviously. And we want things to happen fast. We want overnight success. We want the thing that we can just turn on, and the qualified leads are banging at our door to work with us and be like, hey, here is my hundreds of thousands of dollars, like, take it and let's do something. This is not what happens in reality, especially in 2025. Anybody can claim anything on the internet. It's really about building, stacking up.
Crazy. And can I say something about that, though, too? How many times people have come to me and say, oh, how can I write a best-selling book? And it's like, my bestseller is my fourth published book. The other ones did okay, enough that my publisher liked me to keep publishing, but weren't great. And I have to say, to me, a little disappointment, because I thought they'd really be the breakout book. And then finally, with Coach the Person, Not the Problem, I hit it. I hit the, everybody wants this book now. But I had to it's my fourth published book. It's not my first. And I've often even heard, write your first book and then throw it away. Because it's not going to be it. So there's no, that overnight success after 20, 30 years, that's, you have to build it up, and keep learning and growing. What did I learn from that? Even if I feel that it was a failure, what did I learn from it? And build on that.
Amen to that. It's like in business. Your first business is very likely not going to be the one that explodes. And it's like every time you learn, it goes faster to get to the same point, and then you iterate and you learn again, and you compound and you stack. And I like the analogy with the books. Is like, the first one is probably not going to be the best one, and the second one likely not neither, and the third one likely not neither. Fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, whatever it takes. Like, as long as you make sure you get better every time, you're going to end up making it work.
Right.
Marcia, it was an absolute masterpiece. Thank you so much for consulting leaders. If people want to find out more about you and what you do, where should they go?
Well, of course, I'm all over the internet, but I'm LinkedIn is my primary. I am launching another book next year, so I'll be all over social media. But my website is outsmartyourbrain.com. So
we'll put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure is that you just gained one connection out of this interview. I just added you on LinkedIn. Marcia, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders, and we'll put all the links in the description.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.